Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 says, "Then God said, Let us make man in our image. According to our likeness, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." And so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. If you would, turn over to chapter 2. Verse 18 says, "And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone." And all the men said, Amen. It's not good that man should be alone, I will make him a helper comparable to him. Verse 21, "And the Lord caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called a woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." 127 again, it says, "Male and female, he created them." I don't know if there's another phrase in the Bible with so few words that has so much meaning. Male and female are different. And I want to talk about those differences this morning. When I was having certain young men come over to the house on Saturday mornings, one of the Saturday morning topics that we had was women. And since these were all guys, they were curious about women. Almost all of them are married. And I found it extremely interesting how in touch with some of these things these young men were. I was, of course, if you're married and you live with a woman, you get to know some things. It doesn't mean you necessarily understand women, but you can anticipate certain things, all right? And I do believe that you can understand women, but it's not a skill that comes naturally. You have to learn. You understand what I mean? I know the way I am and the way I think, and so surely you think that way, so I understand you by the way I am. And that is incorrect. And once you can get past that kind of thinking and say, well, I'll understand you based on who you are, so I better observe, listen, and get to know you, and then I can know you and understand you better. All right? So now, with the differences between men and women, a lot of jokes have sprang up. Want to hear a couple? Now, somebody told this one up here, but I think it was in one of the classes, the Christian Life School of Theology classes, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it. I saw it in Reader's Digest, and I kind of liked it. Man had done well in his life, had served God faithfully. And so God appeared to him and said, you have been a righteous man, and I want to give you a reward in this life. And so anything that you want, just tell me. I'm God. I can do it for you. He says, well, I live here in California, and I always wanted to go to Hawaii, but never could afford it. So would you build for me a bridge from California to Hawaii? And he said, well, I don't know, son, you're asking a lot, just for you. I would have to get all these people involved. We'd have to put concrete pillars go all the way to the bottom of the ocean floor. And we're talking about, this is a major project. Is there something else maybe that you'd want to do, that you'd want that's not quite so selfish? And so he stopped and thought, well, I'll tell you what, something that's always troubled me. Could you help me to understand women? Why they are the way they are. Why do they cry? What makes them happy? That's what I'd like to know. God was silent for a little while, and God said, What, 2 lanes or 4 on that? Okay. I picked on the women. Do you know why Israel wandered around 40 years in the wilderness? It's because they were led by men and they wouldn't stop and ask directions. I got this as a quote out of a book. This is by Charlotte Whitten. Whatever women do, they must do twice as well as men to be thought half as good. Luckily, this is not difficult. Okay. Well, one more. Let's see if I can remember this one. There is a company or an organization called Marriage Anonymous. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous, and if you're a single person, they assign you, someone that has been there and can help you avoid the temptation. And so if a young man is tempted to become married, he can call up, his buddy, and his buddy will counsel him. If that doesn't work, they send over a woman whose face is covered with cold cream and she has curlers in her hair, and she nags him until he gets out of the idea. Well, that didn't go over very well. Or if it's a woman, it's a young lady who's thinking about getting married, they send over to her a man dressed in sweats who gets a clicker and lies on the couch watching television until she gets tired of it and changes her mind. All right. Here in verse 27, there it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. There is some thought among theologians that when God created the first person, created Adam, that he put within Adam the essence of both male and female. And so then later, when the time came to create female, Eve, then from his side he took flesh and bone and the things that are material, and took the essence of what a woman is and then put it in her. Now, I've had pastors that have taught that, and I've thought about that. I guess it could be. I may even have taught it because I was taught that, but I was thinking about that. Would that be accurate? I mean, why would God do that? I mean, what would be the point there? And here's why I don't think so. It's just a real simple little thing, but I don't believe that. In essence, I don't believe he did it that way. I believe that he created Adam as Adam is, and I don't know why he decided, when he decided to create Eve, that he took it from him, except maybe as a symbolic thing. And you've all heard sermons on how the Lord took from his side, and so that he'd be alongside of her, and not from his feet to be under her feet or any of that business. And all of that is great imagery, and I agree with where they're going on that. But the thing is, I believe that Eve was a special creation by God, all in her own right, just like the man Adam was. That woman is a special creation endowed by her Creator with the way that she is. I do not believe that the differences between men and women are a result of the fall, but they are a result of the way God created them. So ladies, you are the way you are because that's the way God wanted you to be. I mean, the fundamental things that make you female. And guys, you are men and you are male because God created you that way. All right? Both are good. One is not superior to the other. And I know all kinds of junk have been taught through the centuries since Adam about the differences in male and female. But before God, there's neither male nor female. They are, although different as far as accepted by God, loved by God, they're the same, all right? Men don't have a special place over and above women, and women don't have a special place over and above men. All are special, all right? All are accepted by God. He's made you the way you are on purpose. And the challenge or the command of God to them was to subdue the earth, bring it under your dominance. I give this ball to you, I give all these animals to you, and I want you to rule it. You are the chief ones, and both of them ruling together. And I just believe that before the fall, had there not been a fall, it would have taken both kinds, male in the way that they are and female in the way that they are, together to rule and subdue the earth. It takes two to carry out this commission. And I'm not just talking about marriage here. In your workplace, in school where there are men and women together, it takes both kinds. And all the people said, "You're right, Pastor, I think." They were created different to complement each other. I don't mean about giving compliments, but to where one is different, the others will make it up. Where the other one is strong, then he makes up for that. Where the other one is weak. So that together they present a solid, good whole to subdue the earth and to rule it. The fall brought about antagonism then between the sexes. And that's why in this world, jokes like I was talking about are made up, because there are not good respect sometimes in the world I'm talking about between men and women. And so all of these jokes rise about the differences, but God respects the differences, and to Him they're on purpose and they're good. They're not evil. All right? I can't speak about little girls much, not having one. But I can speak about little boys because I have one. A few years ago, and I don't remember when this movie came out, Toy Story. Are you familiar with this? Those that have children have seen Toy Story. I don't know about anybody else, but I thought it was very captivating. But in the first of that movie, if you'll think back, it starts out with this little boy playing. And he has set up these cardboard boxes and he's made it into a western town. And he has all these toys, little figures, and he's in there and he's throwing them around and he's bashing and they're shooting each other and he's making up these little plays with this thing, but it's rough. And he's slapping around and there's all of this dialogue and all of these weird noises going on. And the thing that I hear from women who are raised in a household without any brothers is the noises that little boys make. I'm not talking about talking now. I'm just talking about noises. I'm not talking about those noises either. I'm talking about vroom, vroom, and it's a hoot. Now, somebody that has little girls, you'll have to talk to them about what they do, but I have talked to women. In fact, I read an article one time about this woman had not been around little boy children, had been raised with only sisters, had been married, and they had a son, and nothing prepared her for this 2-year-old walking through the house whacking things with a stick and just pick up any old kind of stick and it becomes a sword or a gun. Where do they get this? I don't know. It's something that's put in them that just comes right out. And I was reading a book by Cindy Jacobs, and she says, I was riding along, and she is one of these that did not have any brothers, and she says, I was riding along, and I just stopped for a second and was listening to my 5-year-old son in the back seat, and said, it dawned on me, he was not talking, he was just making noise, and all kinds of noises were coming out of the back seat. And she says, I ought to get a clue about this. I'm going to ask my husband about that. And then she got to thinking. She said, I remember when we first were married, my husband would go to the door and he'd open it up and he would start barking outside until he got all the neighborhood dogs barking, and then he'd close the door with a big old grin on his face. And she wrote in her book, says, now I don't believe that all men would do this, but somehow I just feel like they find that this would be an interesting thing. And I thought, yeah. Now women make noises as well, but they're into more, they'll talk. And women generally are oriented toward communication and talking because they're much more relational than men. Anyway, here's some physiological things that happen to men or little boys that do not happen to girls. And it is part of the reason why they're different. Between the 18th and the 26th week in the womb, little boys in the womb, you understand, are given an extra testosterone wash in their brain. Their brain is washed with testosterone. I am not kidding. This is scientific. And the result of this, there are two hemispheres. Some of you think you've been washed twice, but two hemispheres of the brain, and there are fibrous connections between the two, and that testosterone wash destroys some of those connectors, so that males are much more oriented toward this left brain side, and females do both. Now don't go there with the jokes, all right? But women will tend to go from both, but each will specialize in a lobe of the brain or a sphere of the brain. And so men are left-brained generally, and women are right-brained. That is not to say that men cannot use the right side of their brain, but because of that wash, they become more left-brain oriented, and women have a tendency to be more right-brain oriented. Now, what does that mean? This is physiological, I know, and I don't believe that's the whole answer, but men and left-brain oriented, being left-brain oriented will be, this is the seat of the logic. They'll be more analytical, factual, and aggressive. I mean, that is just the way you are, guys. And so God has made you that way. And so accept it. But at the same time, ladies, you need to accept that that's the way they are. All right? Now, right brains. Feelings. And women will be deeply caring where it appears that men won't care at all. But women are oriented to be deep carers, so they are more relational. The seat of language and communication is in that right side of the brain. Imagination and intuition. Now, I live with a woman who has that intuitive part finally honed. And she will come home and say, did you see so-and-so? Their countenance was not good. Something is going on in their life. And I say, who? Really? I have learned to trust it. Because frankly, she is, I cannot even think of an instant, but I hate to say 100% right, but she is rarely wrong. How do you figure that? I don't know. But it is a right brain orientation that you ladies have that many of us guys have to learn to get in touch with. And many don't. Many of us don't. So it works out like this. Women will shop. In the same context, men hunt at the mall. You understand? I'm not talking about going out in the woods. I'm talking about you go to the mall, women shop, but men hunt, all right? You're going somewhere. Women enjoy the drive, enjoy the process, but men conquer the road. And like I was just talking about, so-and-so looks wrong, something's going on, and the guys are, huh? Phone call. Now, I get this a lot. Who was that? What did they say? How did you feel when they were doing that? And I said, what did they say? Well, not much. Was it interesting? Yeah. All these leading questions, and half the time I don't even remember. Did I talk to someone? In fact, Raj, yesterday when I talked to you, I instantly hung it up, dialed the phone, and called Teresa so I could give her the gist of that conversation so that I would not forget, because I knew later she'd be grilling me and get frustrated with me because I wouldn't remember. I wouldn't give her all the details. Can I get a witness? And so ladies like to talk. They'll get together and they'll just talk to one another. And the guys will get together and we'll grunt. We have we have a lot of nonverbal communication, don't we, guys? Yeah, younger. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to sum it up with Hollywood has picked up on these, and so phrases like chick flick, concerning movies, chick flick. Now, what kind of movie is that? Well, it is a movie that women would like, but it'll have relational things, and somewhere in it they'll need to cry. Am I right? Somewhere in that movie there's some bawling that needs to happen, and guys won't get it. Look, I like chick flicks. Kind of in a, kind of. But I don't normally cry at them. I don't see that. But women are relational. They identify with the situation, and it touches their heart. Women are like that. Now, guys, there's a certain channel on the cable or satellite, depending on what you get, and they have movies for guys who like movies. And what kind of movies are those? Action, shoot 'em up, a lot of car chases and crashes, explosions, and there's not a great lot of dialogue, but there's a lot of action. Not a lot of character development, but there is a lot of action. Am I right? Yes. Movies for guys who like movies. So these are fundamental differences in the approach to life between male and female. All right? And it causes misunderstandings. Now turn over to not Genesis. We're in Genesis, let that go. Ephesians chapter 5. Now this concerns marriage, but I'll tell you, if you have male or female friends and you're not married, well, take heed. You can learn something this morning, all right? Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. I'm just going to pick a couple of verses out. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. That is a command to husbands, right? Love your wives, all right? Verse 22, 2 verses for women. Well, actually, men work into the second one. But verse 22 says, wives, submit to your own husband as to the Lord. That's directed to wives, not to husbands, right? Wives, submit to your own husbands as you would to the Lord. Verse 33, nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So we have a command to husbands to love their wives just like Jesus loves the church, which is completely selfless and giving, all right? And then women are to submit to their own husbands as they would to the Lord, and that they are to, in that submission, it would be rooted in respect. So respect your husband, all right? Now, I'm going to key off of that and give you a little teaching this morning. There are two examples that I want to give you of where one of each side, as I understand it, blew it. All right? Now, we're going to come back to Ephesians, so you can keep your finger in there if you want to. Turn to the book of 1 Samuel.